Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 17 of Our Underground Life. Today is Thursday, March 17th, 2016, about 10:30 in the morning, say 55-ish degrees right now. And in this show I'm going to give you a sneak peek into some of the cleanup I have to do every spring in the garden. And a little bit of this and that of other stuff, but that's going to mostly be it. I did promise, I know in the last show, that the next show was going to be about the delivery of our mini orchard plants. However, that delivery has been delayed a few days. So that will be the next episode, I think, but I better not promise. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the show. Let's move on with it. Alright, here are 3 things I may or may not need while cleaning up the garden. You see that label there? Ant poison, boric acid and sugar mixed together, just in case I encounter a fire ant nest while I am working, because it's really annoying when you're digging up weeds and you pull one out and you shake them and then all of a sudden there's fire ants all over your hand. So I want to be ready. So I'm showing you some of the weeds we got. The grass definitely needs to go. But look at all that prickly lettuce, all those things that kind of look like dandelions. It's actually prickly lettuce. Kind of a bitter flavor, but still nutritious. Free greens, but you know what? Way too many. And there's some other weeds in there I really don't want. So, checking out some other kind of weeds that don't need to be there. Some more grass you see there on the left. And those strawberries are going to probably be moved. They were put there. They're ever-bearing. Alright, so now I'm showing you where I was growing sweet potatoes the last couple of summers. I showed you the lettuce with my finger, the row of lettuce, but look at all that other stuff. It's all weeds. What am I going to do? Basically, I've decided just to, I'll show you in a minute. Here, prickly lettuce sometimes is easy to get out, and sometimes isn't. What I finally decided to do is I'm going to get, since the prickly lettuce tastes kind of bitter, yep, there, I got the rest of the taproot out. Prickly lettuce tastes kind of bitter, so I only use a little bit of it, say every 3 days, so we need less than a dozen plants, really. Now, here's another prickly lettuce that was not so easy to pull out. The taproot had really gotten in there, so I'm working and working. Now, it's good if you have a weed with a taproot that goes really deep, like a dandelion and like certain prickly lettuces. They're drawing up minerals, nutrients, and water from way below where your garden vegetables, so you don't have to worry about those. They even actually might be helping with vegetables, but there I'm showing you the taproot. And a surprise! I haven't been paying attention. I have mentioned in previous videos that we've had a mild winter. Well, I didn't realize the asparagus was already growing. This I started from seed last spring. And now look, now it died back in the fall. I pruned it. It's in sawdust now. It's mulched with sawdust. And look, I've got shoots coming out. All right, here's me pulling up grass. Grass is the one thing I do not like in the garden. It's the one thing I consider a weed. A lot of the other stuff will make for a nice ground cover. Often doesn't really compete with other vegetables, but grass, yeah. And I have to show you the little guy I found. Gardeners are always excited to find earthworms when they're digging out weeds or just digging in general. I took a break, and Jerry was then moving the picnic table from in front of the tough shed to in front of our earth-sheltered house where it needs to be now. I said, I want a place to sit outside, on a nice day in the shade. So this is usually a shady place right there. All right, now I have really pruned down all the prickly lettuce, you can tell, haven't I? And what I'm going to do in these spaces is I'm going to be planting some strawberries. I finally decided. Because I'm not going to have enough, I think, where I need to. So I'm picking up the weeds that I've pulled out, mostly prickly lettuce, and I'm going to dump them on the other side where I kind of have a little bit of a compost pile there. And then I also used some of the weeds I've pulled up to mulch the onions that are now going to seed, but they'll just keep growing back. Onions are cool that way. And now I've got it mulched with cardboard because I don't want anything growing in between. And a little later that afternoon, I finally decided, well, not finally decided, it was finally hot enough. That jar contains linseed oil with beeswax melted together, a quart of linseed oil, a couple tablespoons of little beeswax beads, and you end up with a liquid that it's like a natural waterproofing. So this is a picnic table we had bought from Amazon, which fell apart. It turned out the inside was like made out of pressboard or something nasty like that. You see the nice little sponge thing keeps falling apart on me, but that's okay. So I finally realized, well, wait a minute, we can use the aluminum frame and just make, a waterproof top. So that's what I'm doing. All right, showing you another area of the garden that's full of weeds, but if you look at it right there, see, I've got lots of moss in there, and if I start pulling out the weeds, the moss will come up too. It's hard. And most of that stuff on the end, there's a garlic sticking up, but most of that's weeds down there. What am I going to do? Well, I think what I'm going to do is just try to bury it in wood chips or leaves, or maybe a mixture of both. And I'm going to be doing the same thing here, once the lettuce is up and with all the stuff in the middle. The grasshoppers are eating the spinach that are in the middle, so I think I'm going to just give up on the spinach. But here's one particular weed I want to get out. I'm not going to leave it just to cover it up because it produces a really nice, pretty little flower, but after the flower comes stickers. So besides grass, this weed right here, and if you know what the name of this weed is and you want to comment below, I'd appreciate it. I have no idea what it's called, but it produces stickers and it's annoying to have on your property, but especially in the garden. So that's basically what I did there was basically just take all those out. Here's the raised bed with lettuce full of weeds, but most of the lettuce is big enough I can finally take the weeds out. And so here I am. I've now weeded out the raised bed, and I've got pine needles that I collected last fall. I was going to put them on the carrots, ended up not doing that. So I'm finally going to mulch this bed. Now I've got all the weeds. See how much empty space there is now in between the lettuce. I'm going to put some mulch. Then we've had rain, so there's water in the bucket before I get the pine needles out. Pine needles aren't the best mulch, but they'll keep weeds down some anyway, and they'll help the soil not to heat up so quickly, which is critical for lettuce because lettuce likes things cool as possible without freezing in order to grow, in order not to be bitter. This lettuce is already bitter. I learned this a couple of years ago, that if you have lettuce that takes forever to grow, it just ends up growing bitter no matter how much you water it, unfortunately. So that's why I'm growing lettuce under lights now, by the way. And here I am. And so this raised bed is now mostly mulched down with pine needles. Looks real good. So kale, what am I going to do with this baby kale? Well, hardly any of the seeds germinated, but I've got some little baby plants. I decided I'm going to plant them in the wood chips around the peach trees. And that way, theoretically, I will never have to water the kale. The wood chips will continually decompose and provide both water and nutrients. So that's what I'm doing on the, not so much, I think I maybe put a couple on the south side of a couple of the trees, but mainly the east and northern side is where I mainly put the kale. It took me a little bit to actually get to the wood chips down to the ground because the wood chips are pretty deep right there, which is what you want. The deeper your wood chips are, the less you have to water and the longer it's going to last. So, and I take out a kale. Kale is it's a wonderfully alkaline, any of the dark leafy greens are very nice alkaline and nutritious, highly nutritious, full of wonderful minerals. Foods. And I don't have enough. So there we go. I've got my first kale in the wood chips. So, and I have figured out that when it rains, I'm going to have to, every time it rains, as long as they're babies, I'm going to have to go out and pull back the wood chips because the rain makes the wood chips kind of fall down on the babies. But hopefully in about a month, that won't be an issue anymore. So now I'm showing you all the plants that I got put around the 4 peach and nectarine trees. So that's a peek into some of the work I've been doing to clean up garden and get some things started. I thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and you want to follow what we're doing on our Southeast Oklahoma homestead here, go ahead and subscribe. And be sure to click the link right below the video in order to get your free ebook to help you live a life of greater freedom. Did I say thank you for watching? If I didn't, thank you for watching. I hope to see you for the next episode.